All right, so I'm about to land in Gorgrond,
Gorgrond.
which kind of reminds me of Blade's Edge Mountains.
I still think that's intentional.
I don't know if Blade Edge Mountain, that's a tongue twister, is Gorgrond or if it's Frostfire Ridge or the area in between. So for those
Huh.
that don't know their lore, this is actually Outland, right?
Right.
And Outland was blown apart. Draenor was blown apart to make Outland.
Right.
So the Blade's Edge Mountains, that was not originally here.
Well, I know that Nagrand is obviously where Nagrand is now in Outland, and Zangar Sea probably becomes Zangar Marsh, which is between Frostfire Ridge and Nagrand, and then
Right.
above Zangar Marsh in Outland would be Blade's Edge,
Yeah, okay, yeah. So
which is Frostfire Ridge. So
And if
maybe I think it's both.
and if you want to know more about Draenor and the Dark Portal, that is Warcraft 2's expansion pack, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Warcraft 2's expansion pack is about the Dark Portal, and then Khadgar and those guys got left behind here and all that good stuff. But we're kind of like in Warlords of Draenor, we're kind of like in an alternate universe. It's very comic book style. I think we've talked about this between us.
We're basically in a past version of it in an alternate history.
So like comic books are kind of famous for random
Timeline.
side arcs and multiple different timelines,
In
alternate
the
universes.
timeline where Bruce Wayne never lost his parents.
Is that one of them? That doesn't sound like one of them.
That is actually one, and I believe it is now an animated series.
All right. Well, I'm ready to move in here.
It goes in, I think it's called Gotham, and it goes into a world where he is only Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, so, right. So,
Don't know why.
at some point, your lore, comic books, oh, this is beautiful. Get off your mount. We should walk. This is beautiful. I got my camera down. This is amazing.
It is very pretty. I think at some point in lore, your story basically ends.
Well,
okay.
Here's the problem. At some point, your characters become caricatures.
Right.
Because you have explored everything there is to explore.
Extended them to every extreme of their personality.
Right. And it starts to become more unbelievable. And so it's very tempting to have alternate universes and excuses. So, there was controversy that the next Thor is a woman.
Right.
Right. But the people that are making a big deal about that don't actually know what's going on, by the way, right? They just make assumptions.
They want is the same character they've always known and loved to remain.
Well,
the thing is, you don't get stories out of remains and out of stagnation.
When they announced that, a lot of people thought, "What? How's he changing genders?" Right?
Yeah,
but
that's the progression.
Right. It's like you hand off his hammer. Hand his hammer to somebody else.
This is an alternate universe where a woman picks up his hammer and the hammer chooses her.
The actual Thor, it was not changed, right?
Right. He remains the same person.
But the point of all this is, you've explored what there is in the universe and you want to change it around a bit.
Right.
And so that's what Warlords of Draenor essentially is. WoW has become very, what would you say, full of bloat. That's what I want to say. It's kind of bloated in lore. The important characters have been killed off.
Yep.
The lore has gotten kind of ridiculous with pandas and this and that.
Basically, we talked in one video about Metal Gear's story and how it didn't feel complete until really Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah,
and
right.
And really, at a certain point in WoW, which was probably at the end of Lich King, if not a little into Kata, we hit a point where every single loose end was tied up.
Yeah, and of course, and we had, Deathwing, he kind of was brought back because we needed a big bad guy.
It's a question.
And Pandaria, the entirety of Pandaria was because, well, guys, we've killed off everybody from Warcraft 3.
They basically needed I don't want to say a filler expansion. They obviously put a lot of love into it, but it was an expansion where they didn't have to worry about the lore. And I think they used that time, right, while players were playing MOP to figure out what their next move lore-wise was going to be. Because
right,
they really did. They tied everything up.
And WoW was actually originally, I don't want to say controversial, but I think people who played Warcraft 3 kind of raised their eyebrows, like the undead being part of the Horde.
Mm-hmm.
And because in Warcraft 3, the Night Elves, the humans, the orcs, and the undead were 4 separate factions.
Right.
And in WoW, right off the bat, you had that changed. The lore was changed.
Mm-hmm.
And the lore has been changed many, many times. And, Grom's son, he was, overthrown, I guess, at the end of Pandaria, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's kind of a shame to Grom's memory and all that. Because if you play Warcraft 3, Grom's actually really, really cool, right?
He's a very heroic figure, not just to the Horde, but to the story.
He sacrificed himself. I mean, he's so close to Thrall and all that. And then to see his son kind of treated like garbage, by the lore writers. I mean, it's kind of sad.
To a lot of people, it felt like dishonoring someone that everyone thought was a hero. Right?
It kind of felt like they were playing fast and loose with the lore.
Yeah, like it's kind of like Diablo 3's, spoiler alert, I guess, but Diablo 3's Death of Cain. It felt wrong to do it.
Yeah, and so with Draenor, they're like, all right, we can pretend a lot of this stuff didn't happen. Because what we have in Draenor is we're fighting Ner'zhul and the orcs. And this is very old school because Warcraft 1 was called Orcs versus Humans. Right? It was just the Alliance fight. I don't even know if it was an Alliance. Yeah, it was, because they were elves.
Right.
It was just fighting orcs. Orcs were the enemy. So we're very much back to basics with Warlords of Draenor because we are fighting orcs. Not the orcs that we know, the Horde.
The Iron Horde.
But we're fighting the original orcs.
We have basically created the original scenario, right? We're on a new planet, and while we are the outsiders exploring it, we are defending it from the native Iron Horde, who are the bad guys of the planet. So yeah, we've gone back.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. It's kind of like, I think it's why the caverns at time were so popular. You get to kind of forget about the silliness of the lore. Like, I love the Stratholm one, where you the purging of it with Arthas. I thought that was amazing.
It's a chance to relive moments that are for anyone who has played the older Warcraft games. These were moments in it that we just remembered, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Seeing Uther again, seeing Arthas.
And some of these moments were from like books or early comics. Like, I loved Hillsbrad Foothills releasing Thrall from his enslavement. That was a really big part of lore, and you got to do that in Caverns of Time. I thought it was really cool.
That's what this expansion feels like. It feels like Caverns of Time to me, where we get to go back and reappreciate bits of lore that were really significant to not only shaping the story as we know it, but to shaping the universe and to shaping the gamers who play it. These moments are the things that drew us in originally, and we get to relive them.
Yeah, so this has been a fun expansion. It's like I was saying, it's kind of a love letter to WoW players, I think.
Right.
You have the focus on exploration and the older lore, right? It's kind of like, guys, forget that Arthas is dead. Forget all that stuff. Let's get back to basics here. This is orcs versus humans, really.
Right.
Here's the original Warcraft. We're sorry we didn't make Warcraft 4. We're sorry Warcraft 4 probably won't ever exist as long as there's an MMO. Mm-hmm. Here's our game. Look at Garrisons. My goodness. That's so cool.
I think that's effective. Effectively, that's what happened was the game became an MMO, and part of being an MMO is obviously taking on a new standard of how are people going to play this game? What are they going to interact with? And because of that, we lost a bit of the RTS charm. When you go to an MMO, I think you lose a lot of the story in favor of exciting action, which means killing off Illidan and stuff like that in raids. So I overall, this is so far, and I haven't experienced all of it. I haven't even done heroics, but this has been my favorite expansion next to Lich King.
To be honest, I actually wouldn't mind if we had more alternate universe going back in time stuff. like I would love to see a lot of those fantastic Warcraft 3 missions and Warcraft 2 missions
Oh,
and
yes.
big parts of that lore. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't mind if the entirety of an expansion took place, back then.
I think that would be what I'd want, because I think at this point, like you said, it feels bloated, and adding more lore to the story just feels like you already wrapped up the loose ends. There's no reason for it, right?
Yeah,
Aside from
there's
you
nowhere to
want
go.
another expansion.
You would have to make up new characters. That's the
Yeah.
only way forward.
And I don't want another Pandaria. Pandaria is very standalone, but because of that, I'm not invested in it, right? When I play it.
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
care enough.
It stands on its own 100%.
I
I
don't-
think they did that on purpose.
I mean, I don't care enough. I don't care like I did when I first went to the Frozen Throne, right? And confronted Arthas, or went and saw Illidan. I don't care about, the Shaw whispering me in Pandaria, but I cared very deeply when I first started a Death Knight about Arthas whispering me randomly.
That's the thing. I think the writers are finding that it's very difficult to create new lore on the fly,
Oh, definitely.
especially once your product becomes aged. I mean,
Yes.
Warcraft lore is very old now, and at some point, your readers or your customers have so much nostalgia and respect for what the old writers did that
Right.
it's very hard to not step on toes,
Mhm.
and to mess with what people love. And I think that's what they've been finding out here.
I think ultimately you're not going to please everyone. I mean, especially the change to the MMO alone was such a big factor in this game and in the story and how it took shape, that I do agree that this is a love letter to older players, to veteran players of the series, as
Yeah.
not a tie up, but, and I don't want to say apology, but maybe a tribute to how it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. Like it is a love letter. I mean, they're saying, "Hey, thanks for sticking around." I mean, remember, it coincides with the 10-year anniversary. I don't think
Right.
that's a coincidence at all. I'm 90% sure that their goal was to bring in the old players, the
Right.
Warcraft 3 players, the vanilla WoW players with this expansion. I
Hey,
really,
it worked.
I really do think that's what they were after. And I'm
Right.
happy. I'm happy for that, because it shows that they haven't forgotten us. The players that played Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, and fell in love with those characters. The people that read the books. I haven't read the books myself, except for a couple of the comics. But it's saying, yeah, we know you're there.
I think
You know.
it covers the same field of play as the expansion for Diablo 3 did for me, where it's coming back to the players who played the previous game, right? So
Yeah,
Diablo
it's like, let's get back to
Diablo 3's
basics.
expansion felt very much like a love letter to Diablo 2, to
Absolutely.
the players who played that for 13 years, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And I feel like this is doing the same thing. 10-year anniversary, why don't we go back to the reason people fell in love in the first place? And we can at least honor that memory. And I think this was the best way to honor it. Was an alternate timeline where we don't have to worry about how does this fit into the new lore. I love Phelan so much. I'm so sorry, but I love that King Grammy. I love Phelan. He's the best character. But I think this is the best way to do it. We can relive the memory, but at the same time, we don't have to worry about where does this fit in, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
Don't
really
muddy
cool,
the
actually.
issue. We're in the past. We're in an alternate timeline. Ready, go. I like that. All right,
And like I said, they're running out of expansion ideas.
right.
So it's like, where are they going to go with this? And hopefully this is successful. And I would really like to see Frozen Throne or Warcraft 3 revisited.
Right.
A lot of not just Caverns of Time, but like imagine the whole continent recreated. You go through a portal and it's the old world from Warcraft 3 and stuff. And, night elves are on their own and undead are on their own. And, it's the original undead, not the awakened undead. I think that'd be really cool to
Right.
revisit all that. And they could go into a lot of what used to be in the books and stuff, right?
Right.
Because that's where you got a lot of the elaboration.
Exactly.
There's so much good old lore, too.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot of potential. A
it's
lot
just
of unused,
fantastic stuff.
untapped potential.
Now, what should I output? What does it matter what kind of outpost I get here?
I made a logging camp because last time I made the stadium. I'm gonna tell you the stadium allows you to summon a random gladiator, and the more enemies you kill with them, it'll rack up points. And like in
Okay.
30 seconds, you kill as many enemies as you can, and then they'll give you
Yeah.
a buff based on how many you killed.
How about the logging camp? What's that do?
No idea, which is why I made it.
Okay, I'll get the logging camp.
Yeah. The other one was
yeah.
fun.
We
but-
recommend all party members make the same selection.
I think it's because you'll be phased if you don't.
Okay. Yeah, we don't. Otherwise, we'll have separate quests. That would be very bad.
Okay, so we should decidedly talk about it. Sorry. I did not know that. I wanted to make the one I had made.
Yeah.
Said I could summon Mechano Strider. It sounded cool.
All right, I got the flight path.
I have all my quests for the area.
Let me get this guy.
This is the part where what I really like about the expansion as well is that you get at your first hub, you tend to split off into directions, right?
My goodness, I'm gonna follow you because you've already done this zone.
Okay.
If I lead the way, we're just gonna end up wasting a lot of time.
I'm gonna take you north because I think that area had more potential in my opinion.
All right.
I think I enjoyed it more, and I think this will let us run into someone I want you to
I have
see.
been here before to
Right.
archaeology, but yeah, but like I was saying, there's so much cool old lore,
Oh, decidedly.
and they can revisit a lot of it and tell a lot of those stories from the comics and the books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really in depth. Make the quest lines focused on like Thrall's upbringing and stuff. You know, that period of time. Or fill out more of the Warcraft 3 story.
Right.
Especially the Night Elf story. You don't... In WoW, I never felt like you really got to know the Night Elves. I don't know about you.
I agree.
But they have a very important history as well with the entire world, but like the events that transpire in Warcraft 3, I don't know, they're not very well explained in WoW.
I think going through the Night Elf and Blood Elf campaign effectively again would be good. I think you don't get to you learn a lot about the Forsaken and what they're doing in Azeroth in World of Warcraft's time period.
Yeah.
But you don't really know a lot of their history, Sylvanas' history. That would be very interesting to explore.
Yeah. Right.
Going through the
I said,
campaigns again, basically.
you only get bits and pieces.
Right.
And a lot of those bits and pieces only players of Warcraft 3 are going to be familiar with. Like Sylvanas has that music box event.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
That talks about her past and stuff, but I mean that's cool, but imagine like super in depth, right? Like follow the characters around, just like we're doing in Draenor.
Caverns of Time or Draenor, yeah, where you experience it and you are not only watching a cutscene or hearing about it after the fact in an exposition dump, but you're there, you're part of that moment, right? That's how you build a character that's meaningful.
Absolutely.
I think that's really where Pandaria went wrong, is they had a lot of characters that were just basically, like Lorewalker Cho, where his whole job was to follow you around and exposition dump at you. And
that was actually pretty hilarious.
I mean, he was entertaining, right?
No, yeah, good voice acting and all that stuff, but
he wasn't. I didn't care about him.
It didn't quite feel like Warcraft.
No,
it felt like a different universe.
I still stand by the April Fool's joke that became a game. We're talking to.
Hang on, I got this tentacle monster.
I wonder if we will even get the quest since we did not do the Gladiator Arena. I hope so.
From the tree man here?
Well, no, but since we didn't grab the Gladiator Arena, I hope we run into the NPC my druid ran into.
Okay.
But starting in a different spot.
Let's see what happens.
I know. I just hope it doesn't get cut out. It might.
So while we're talking about old lore, one of the reasons I say that feels bloated, current WoW lore,
right?
Because look at Warcraft 3, right? We all know how it ends. Arthas and Illidan fight, right?
Right.
And Arthas wins, and he goes to the top of the Frozen Throne and he crowns himself. And then the game ends.
Right.
Now, here's what's bizarre. You go to WoW, and you don't see Arthas for 2 expansion packs. It's like he's been sitting there like building power, right? And obviously he has, because all of Northrend is like undead and stuff. But it's like the regular world. It's like, who cares? Our favorite son went up and got, turned evil.
You know that guy?
That's not important. It's not important right
now. You know
now.
that guy who went to Northrend and like, yeah, our favorite prince is all evil now? Yeah. So about Ragnaros and Onyxia.
Yeah, I know. We went like down all these weird side paths, and it just feels like a big old like blob of lore after some point. At least that's how it felt to me.
I agree.
Because when WoW first came out, I really thought that the first thing we would do is tie up that storyline.
It's kind of, yeah.
No, we did not.
It felt very much like, imagine if we're all waiting for Half-Life 3 or something. And like, imagine if Half-Life 5 came out and then Half-Life 3.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah.
It's like, what happened to the tie-in?
Exactly.
Diablo 3 releases before Diablo 2 or something. And you don't really know where you left off or why.
And it took a really long time to get everything, all the lore connected, I guess. And then like Illidan was...
Can I go?
I felt like Illidan was just like tossed in randomly in Burning Crusade.
Illidan just did not... I don't know why he would... I still don't know why Illidan was in Outland.
Well, because if you remember... That actually kind of makes sense, because in Frozen Throne, Illidan does kind of like take over.
Okay.
And all that, but...
Yeah.
It just did feel weird, though.
It felt like, hey, we need a raid boss. Let's kill this guy.
And it felt like the Night Elves were kind of disconnected from the whole thing. Like, I don't know. It's kind of just strange. All right, so...
I did not get to do this quest last time, because I did not have that shred barrier.
So the Shredder, that's what we're going to get from this, right?
Yeah.
What is this area, though?
I've never been up here, because I can't.
Cudgel. I don't think I need a cudgel, but all right.
Get your cudgel and you'll enjoy it.
All right. Will that disappear? Will that disappear? Oh, no.
Will
Wow. It did not disappear when you got it. All right. Excellent. Now, something I'd like to talk about is, how long do you think WoW's going to go on?
I honestly thought this would be the last expansion. I mean, it depends, obviously, how popular
they have so many subscribers. That's the thing.
I thought, but then again, I thought it would end at Lich King, because that was like the end of all the tie-ins. They're like, oh no, Deathwing's here, and I'm like, okay, sure, I'll play along for that. Pandaria was where I thought it was just jumping the shark.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, we got subscribers. I mean, we're not gonna leave them in the dust.
Like if a movie does really well, even if you don't want them to, they're probably gonna make a sequel.
Well, it's kind of similar, but not really. I mean, it's true, because sometimes you don't want the sequel, but see, with WoW, you're a subscriber. Right. I mean, the company can't just abandon you while you're playing.
Right. You have to... That's why FF11, has Abyssia now, even though it's a really old game with not a lot of subscribers anymore, and they even have their own new MMO. They're still giving those subscribers content, because those people are paying for that game because they expect new content, right?
I mean, EverQuest... That's
why you're supporting them.
EverQuest kept coming out with expansions long after its heyday, so I suspect that's what's going to happen with WoW. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that Blizzard is so, like, protective of their lore and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't want to just, hand the lore off to a bunch of scrub developers or whatever, writers. Right. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. I have a theory. I think at some point they're going to make a WoW 2.
Oh, God. Oh, okay.
With basically upgrade the graphics engine and everything.
Similar to...
But it'll be the same game.
So it would take place in Azeroth still?
The same exact universe.
Okay. Same story?
Yeah, the same story.
Not an alternate timeline?
Well, like I said, they can't abandon... How do you abandon...
They can't abandon the lore.
How do you abandon your players?
Right. So what you're theorizing is
you just turn off the server? See? I mean, they're in a very tough situation.
So what you're theorizing is that because, like, right now, they're basically subduing everyone with, hey, here's a texture update and stuff like that. But the game is still very dated in graphics. I like the cartoony graphics, but they are dated compared to newer MMOs.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially cutscenes and such.
Yeah, definitely.
So I can see how, yeah, that's a decent argument of basically here's WoW Redux, right?
See, I don't think it's going to be EverQuest 2 ran alongside EverQuest 1. I don't see Blizzard doing the same thing.
Right.
Because to me, Blizzard seems like a company that's very much in charge of their destiny.
Right.
I mean, I don't see them leaving WoW lore up to, a few 10,000 subscribers and a small team at the end. It's too important. It just seems like it's too important for that.
They wouldn't let it fizzle out, basically.
Exactly.
They would revamp it.
So you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
With my WoW 2, where you basically like replace the engine, but it's still the same game.